All right. Today we're going to talk about Animal Farm, the first three chapters, and do a bit of a allegorical review as far as which characters and events in the story are representing the people and events from the Russian Revolution. So seeing a bit of a comparison there and trying to connect those dots. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, what is an allegory? Well, it's a form of literature, and basically it's a story that represents another story. There's lots of representation and allusions to other things outside of the story. So lots of connections that can be made. In this case, a fictitious story, so a story that is not real. Animal Farm, animals cannot talk. Sorry to break it to you. This is representing an event from history, which is the Russian Revolution, which actually happened. All right. So we have a fake story representing something real. And so, as I previously said, Animal Farm is going to be an allegory of the Russian Revolution. All right. The events in the story have a strong correlation with the events in the Russian Revolution. Basically, some of the main things that happened in the Russian Revolution, just as a friendly reminder, would be we had a leader at the beginning who was not doing a good job of taking care of the citizens of Russia. The citizens revolted, with the main reason being a lack of food, among many other problems. And then there's basically two that tried to rise to power, and one took over, that being Joseph Stalin. And Stalin, although he was the leader and although many people liked him, did not do a good job of ruling. Many people died under his reign, and he was a very brutal leader. But he utilized propaganda techniques in order to get people to believe in him and support him. All right. And this all occurred during the time, the World War II era. So who represents Czar Nicholas in Animal Farm? First, it's important to know who Czar Nicholas was. Remember, Czar is just a term. It's not his name. So this is like the term of the leader in Russia at the time. So Tsar Nicholas was the leader before the Russian Revolution. There were many problems under his reign. People did not think he was a good leader. He made some very bad military decisions, and then probably more importantly, many people in the country were starving despite working very hard. So as you can imagine, people were not too thrilled with him. So who represents him in Animal Farm? What's this connection? Well, Tsar Nicholas is going to be Mr. Jones, all right? Mr. Jones is the owner of Manor Farm, and the animals are not very happy under his rule. Many animals are not getting enough to eat. Many animals are being overworked. He is not sympathetic to their problems, and he is not helping them get the care that they need. So both are rulers who are unfit. They're not doing a good job of taking care of their citizens, and they will both be overthrown by a revolution. So we have the Russian people that overthrow Tsar Nicholas. Who are the group that overthrows Mr. Jones and Animal Farm? Well, it's just the animals, all right? All the animals on the farm grouped together to overthrow Mr. Jones and the other people who work on the farm. So we see the similarity between the animals and the Russian people being that they revolt against an unfit leader, all right? And one of the biggest reasons they do that is because there's not enough food. Their leader is not providing the food that they need. So if the animals represent the Russian people, then who does Boxer represent? Boxer, as we see over here, is a horse. He's a hard worker. He's the biggest, strongest animal on the farm. He's very loyal, but one of his biggest flaws is he's uneducated. He is not smart, all right? So I want you to think, Boxer can be a representation of a group of Russian people, okay? So he represents a large portion of the Russian population at the time. Worked hard, did what they were told to do. They were loyal to Stalin later on, and then their biggest downfall was that they are uneducated. So I want you to think, Are uneducated people more or less likely to be manipulated? All right. I've used this example in class before. Not saying that your little siblings are dumb or anything like that, but like your little siblings are younger, all right? So they are not as educated as you might be because you're older and have gone through more schooling and have more experience. So many of you probably take advantage of that fact, right? Hey, you're going to convince little sibling to go get you a soda or to do this or to take the blame for something. And they do it because they're very easily manipulated. And that the reason behind that is they are not as educated yet. They do not have the experience they need, the education they need to realize that they are being taken advantage of. All right. So we're going to see that come into play with Boxer, most definitely. Karl Marx, a figure in the Russian Revolution, not Santa Claus. But who was he? All right. And who represents Karl Marx in Animal Farm? Well, remember, Marx was the person who created the idea of communism, where everyone is equal. The animal that does that is going to be Old Major, all right? The huge old pig from the beginning of the story. He represents Karl Marx because he gives the animals a few different ideas, one of which is to revolt, all right? So you should rebel against the poor leadership. We should have a form of communism where everyone is equal, where everyone is taken care of, okay? So he comes up with this idea and everyone's his comrade, but he himself does not participate in the revolution itself. Both Marx not participating in the Russian Revolution and Old Major not participating in the revolution on Manor Farm. And the reason that they both did not participate is that they died before the revolutions could take place. All right. So Old Major dies very early in the book. He basically gives his ideas and then he dies before the revolution can happen. Same with Karl Marx. Beasts of England, this is simply a rally cry, so this is the whole thing, but Beasts of England is a song that the animals sing, and it gets them to think about all the ideals that they want and how they're oppressed and how they want to have a better life. So this is a song that you will see sung quite often throughout the story, and it starts with very good intentions, but we will have to see where the song goes from there, okay? There's not necessarily a direct correlation to the Russian Revolution in terms of the song Beasts of England, but just know that like the Workers United, this unifies the group, all right? Everyone's working together towards a common goal, and this is a way to symbolize that. Sugar Candy Mountain, all right? So the animal that comes up with the idea of Sugar Candy Mountain is Moses, the raven, all right? We don't see a lot of him, but that is his main contribution at the beginning of the story. He talks about Sugar Candy Mountain, and basically when you die, this is a place that you go, and life is great. There's no pain. You're taken care of. Everything is good. And what does this represent? Well, quite simply, it's heaven, okay? The whole idea of religion during the Russian Revolution was to use it as a tool. So those in charge used religion as a tool to keep their power. So let me explain. If the animals work hard and do not cause trouble, they will go to Sugar Candy Mountain, a paradise, once they die. In the same way, if the Russian citizens worked hard and did not question those in charge, like Stalin, they would go to heaven once they died, another paradise. So this shows that even if life is hard and you're not very happy with how things are going, if you stay the course, if you don't cause trouble, if you don't revolutionize once again, you'll be rewarded later on after you die. So your pain and suffering will be worth it. So don't try and change it because that could lead to issues of not getting to Sugar Candy Mountain or not getting to heaven. So as you can see, the leaders pushed this idea of yes, think of religion, think of Sugar Candy Mountain, think of heaven. Just do what we tell you, and that'll be your reward at the end. All right? Don't fight us because that's bad, and bad people don't go onto these places. So these leaders are using this idea to keep their power and to keep citizens from revolting. So what represents communism? Remember, this is the idea that everyone is equal. Everyone gets the same stuff. Everyone is paid the same, even if you have different jobs and tasks to complete. And how does this relate to the Russian Revolution? Well, this was Karl Marx's idea. And then the new leaders after the Russian Revolution are preaching the idea of communism. So what is the parallel to this in Animal Farm? That is animalism, okay? This is the flag that they will come up with. Animalism. All animals are equal. Everyone's going to get fed enough to eat. Everyone's going to do their part in the community to make sure that things are running smoothly, and everyone will be rewarded in the same way. All right. So we have the 7 commandments. Basically the biggest one being all animals are equal, but you can't kill another animal, can't drink alcohol, can't sleep in the house, don't wear people clothes, all that type of stuff. There's a few more, but just know that all these rules are contributing to this idea of animalism or communism, where everyone's equal. All right. There's no individualism. Everyone does what they're asked. Everyone gets rewarded in the same way. No one has more than anyone else. We'll see how that works. So, because of animalism, you're not allowed to have other things. You're not allowed to have things that others don't. All right. So a few things are taken away in these first couple of chapters that are pretty noticeable. First, Jessie and Bluebell, 2 dogs, have their puppies taken from them by Napoleon, okay? And this is for the greater good. He's going to educate these puppies, but they're taken away from their families. That can obviously cause some problems, all right? So maybe we're starting to see some ideas from animalism that aren't as great as they seemed at first glance, all right? And then another thing that is taken away, Molly the horse, she has her ribbons taken away from her. And those are her individual property, things that she was rewarded for being a good animal to Mr. Jones, all right? So they're a reminder of the old times, and they're also things that not everybody else has, okay? So they were private possessions that were taken away. So what could these things represent? Well, during the Russian Revolution, children were sometimes taken away from their families to be educated, all right, or to be trained. That might cause some problems, all right, kind of taken against their will. They didn't really have much of a choice. Same thing with the ribbons, right? Well, if everyone's the same and everyone's equal, everyone's going to have the same amount of stuff and the same kinds of stuff. So some possessions were not allowed to be had anymore, and they were taken away. And the only real reason was, well, you're not equal to everybody else. That's not fair. That's not how we do things. So I want you to think about how that would make you feel. Maybe a sibling was taken away from you, or maybe some of your favorite things were taken away from you because other people don't have those. All right. How's that going to make you feel? All right. So a couple more pretty easy connections to make between the text and the Russian Revolution. We've talked about this idea of propaganda before, all right? Using videos, speeches, images, whatever, to persuade or convince people to think or act a certain way. So we've seen that with Stalin. We'll see pictures of him posted everywhere about, him with smiling children, him leading people like we see here. People smiling, people happy, people looking well fed. The media praises him. There's all these types of things that help push the idea that Stalin is a good guy, even though he's killing hundreds of thousands of people, okay? Not a good thing. And people are still starving. He hasn't made any improvements from the time before, from Czar Nicholas, okay? So something propaganda-wise that we'll see here is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Just a slogan, right? A form of speech. All right, if you're an animal, you're good. If you're a person, you're bad. There's no in between. It's one or the other. It's black or white. You're with us or you're against us. Who is the biggest supporter or user of propaganda? Well, we're going to see Napoleon, but also the animal that presents the propaganda to the rest of the animals is going to be Squealer, all right? We see at the end of chapter 3, Squealer explain how all the pigs need more food, All right. Well, if everyone's equal, why is someone getting more food? All right. So we're already starting to see some lies and manipulation here to convince the animals to accept some things that aren't necessarily fair. All right. So Squealer is going to be a huge representation of the use of propaganda. So we'll have to keep an eye on what Squealer says, how he's manipulating other animals, and then also who Squealer is supporting as we continue to read. Unlimited power, Star Wars fans. If not, I'm sorry. But who seems to be the most powerful animals so far? I think it's pretty obvious. It's going to be the pigs, okay? Specifically, we see two rise to power, Snowball and Napoleon. Since Old Major died at the beginning of the story, these are the two that have taken up and supported the idea of animalism, all right? Or of the animals' communism, where all animals are equal, okay? So if Old Major represents Karl Marx, like we talked about earlier, who created communism, who created animalism, then who might Snowball and Napoleon be if they're trying to start a revolution with Old Major's ideas? Thinking back to the Russian Revolution, who were the people that tried to rise to power after Czar Nicholas left? Who were the supporters of communism? Well, we're going to see Trotsky, this fellow here, and then Stalin over here. These are the two that rise to power during the Russian Revolution. Once again, how can someone have more power than someone else if everyone is equal? So we immediately start to see some problems with the animalist and communist ideas here, all right? What is the main difference between these two guys here? Well, Trotsky was a true communist. He actually wanted everyone to be equal. He did not want power. He just wanted to lead people to this idea and to this ideal society. Stalin simply said he was communist, okay? Hey, I'm a communist. Everyone's equal, right? But I'm going to go kill these people. I'm going to starve these people. I'm going to do this, do that. I have power over others. And if one person has more power than others, communism or animalism no longer exists, okay? So really, Trotsky was a true communist. Stalin was a communist only by name. Knowing that, which animal seems to represent which guy here? Snowball, Napoleon, who's who? Well, Trotsky, he's well educated. He wants real communism to help the poorest people, rise the poorest people up. Everyone's equal. And he wants to educate the uneducated because he knows that the key to really rising people up to their fullest potential is to educate them, okay? Well, Trotsky is going to be represented by Snowball in the Animal Farm story, all right? We can see Snowball is educated because he wins the debates against Napoleon constantly in chapters 2 and 3. He's a good talker, all right? He writes the 7 Commandments, which are all very communist or animalist ideas here. So these are real forms of communism or animalism. So he's writing the 7 Commandments. And then he wants to help educate animals. He's teaching them to read so they can learn and become more proficient and successful, all right? So we're going to see this character represent Trotsky, which means Stalin is going to be represented by Napoleon, all right? Stalin uses propaganda to take advantage of the uneducated. He is not equal to everyone else. He has things that others do not. He is not a good speaker, all right? He is not someone who's going to lead a great speech like Trotsky would. And then something very important, Stalin will make some people disappear, which essentially means people are going to die if they oppose Stalin, okay? He's a threat to any enemy of his. Well, let's draw some comparisons to Napoleon. Napoleon uses Squealer to lie to the rest of the animals. Squealer is our propaganda, so we're seeing both Stalin and Napoleon using forms of propaganda to take advantage of the uneducated. Napoleon, at the end of chapter 2, takes a bunch of extra milk for himself. And then at the end of chapter 3, we're seeing him get the pigs extra apples and milk as well. So he's taking more for himself and his comrades. That is not equal to everyone else, similar to Stalin. He had things that others did not. Napoleon loses the debates to Snowball, which ties into Stalin not being a very good speaker. And then finally, we see Napoleon take puppies to help teach them. We will have to continue to read to see how this might tie into this idea up here. All right, so hopefully these slides helped you draw some comparisons between characters and people from the historical event. You're starting to see how the Animal Farm is a true allegory, where the story of the animals is representing things that really happened in the Russian Revolution. So we're seeing those allusions to different people and different events. And we will continue to draw these connections as we go forward, all right? There's going to be tons more things to compare, all right? And hopefully learning about the revolution beforehand is helping you make sense of this story, and really how spot on these comparisons are. It's pretty crazy. It's very well written. So keep up the great work. Thanks for tuning in. And if you have any questions, definitely let your teacher know, and we will get you on the right track. Thank you.